Hi everyone, I'm Vone, owner and maker of Vone Knits, and I have a really special treat for you. This is the beautiful Toni Sturrs, who is the creator of Blissfully Crafted, and I'm Vone Knits is the name of my shop, but I also recently just took her course. Is it Knitting with Confidence, right? That I
Yeah,
just
that's right.
I absolutely love. So we're going to talk more about that. All of her info will be at the description below, so definitely check her out. So hi, Toni.
Hi.
How did you come up with Blissfully Crafted?
Um, when I well the name itself had a lot of iterations before I actually settled on something that I actually liked. For a long time, it was just Toni Knits. Um, it was something I came up with at uni, and I sort of made a Facebook page, and I knitted a few phone socks that I sold to my friends, and it sort of started out there, and then it sort of evolved over time, and I sat down one day and I was trying to think of what I sort of wanted to get across with it. And I've struggled with my mental health for a really, really long time. I've had depression and anxiety since I was about 16. And a big part of that is to do with, my knitting is because of that. And I sort of got this idea that it's a blissful thing for me. It's something that, sparks joy and makes me sort of gets me out of that depression. So that's where the blissful part of it came from. And at that point, I never wanted to just limit myself to knitting, because I was doing textile crafts at university. So we were doing knitting and crochet and weaving and basket making and all sorts of things. So I didn't want to limit myself to knitting, even though I knew that that was my sort of specialist area. And since then, it's just sort of stuck, and I think it fits with what I do. Because even though nearly everything I do is knitting, I am just generally very crafty, and I still like to dabble in different things like crochet here and there, and other things as
Oh,
well.
that's awesome. That answers my second question because I wasn't sure. I'm like, because she's a knitting expert, does she crochet? And so you do.
I
See, there it
do.
goes. There's the consensus of I'm trying to. I feel like this year, I think I'm going to make my mission for 2019 to make every knitter a crocheter as well, and every crocheter a knitter. And I've gotten a few people along that path. That you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
I've
That
definitely made a few crocheters knitters.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I mean, I'm a master crocheter, and therefore, but I wanted to learn to knit, and that's why I named it Vone Knits, because I was just a newbie knitter, and I figure if it was in the name of my title, it's more of like Vone Knits as a question mark or an
Yeah,
exclamation. You know what I mean? Like it's not just a simple like it's like, oh, she knits. You know what I mean? Is
yeah,
what, because at the time I wasn't a great knitter, and so if I put it in my name, then it would. And that I would have to do it, and therefore I have, and I absolutely love it. And just this year, I've mastered cabling, so I feel like I'm in a whole new realm of knitting.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love cabling. I think it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
But no,
but and I did it in series, and now I'm like, I feel like I'm nervous because I have to kind of reacquaint myself back to it, because I do have a few patterns that I want to go back into knitting. But speaking of patterns, so I do want to knock this right off the uh, park first, because I met Toni and I got on each other's radar because I did an interview with Jennifer and Sarah McFall, Jennifer Wong and Sarah McFall. It's in the list below for the creative interviews. It's actually the only creative party because we did it in 3, and they had mentioned
love
you.
that.
And Jennifer started a Pear Dinkum on Instagram where she just does knitting toys. We know her from Jennifer Wong Bears, and where she crochets animals, amigurumi. But she did, all of a sudden, she just did all this knitting amigurumi, and I'm like, where did these creations come from? I
It
didn't
was
even know she was a
so
knitter.
beautiful.
I didn't even know she
So
was a knitter,
beautiful.
and I'm like, and then she mentioned your name, that she learned it from you and your free knitting course, and I was like, I have to know this person, because if Jennifer can do
Yeah.
all these amazing amigurumi, which I haven't even yet like ventured into, I was like, then it's totally a possibility. So then I sought you out. I took your free course that I absolutely love. And then I paid for your Knitting with Confidence course because that was the next tier up. And I'm so glad that I did. It was a great course. And it's
Thank
still
you.
something I can go back to. So you're on Teachable, and I like to touch a little bit about that too. What made you decide to go with Teachable?
I'd actually got into it. I followed a course myself about how to sort of take my blog to the next level, because the whole Blissfully Crafted thing, my blog was initially, before I did this course, I was doing all sorts of things. It started out as an attempt to get rid of some of my craft stash, because after being at university doing crafts, I'd built up this colossus collection of paper and yarn, fabric, and all this stuff, and I wanted to get rid of some of it. I didn't want to just give it away. And then I did this course in taking your blog to the next level, and it said that you had to niche down into one area and sort of focus on your zone of genius, which I realized for me had been knitting for years and years, and by trying to sort of dabble into other things and make a business out of it, I was diluting my message and what I was able to do.
Right.
So the course that I took, that was on Teachable itself, and the lady who ran that course created her entire thing was about making courses, and she recommended Teachable, and it just sort of stuck. And I did look into a couple of different ones. I can't even think what they're called now, because for me they just didn't work out. I really enjoyed the platform of Teachable, the way you go through and you complete a lesson at a time, and it gives you that sort of feeling of completion and that little bit of a pat on your own back because you've succeeded at something, even if it's just one little video that you've watched. You can be like, yeah, done that. So that was sort of why I decided to stick with that platform, because I just thought it was so user friendly. So I really enjoy it.
Oh, so you do recommend it then?
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good, yeah.
I personally really like it. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think your course is the only one I know of Teachable. I've learned about it, and I considered it as one of the platforms. But I really do like going through each course and getting that check and like
Yeah.
being done and complete and seeing me. You know what I mean? It kept me motivated and encouraged with
Yeah.
it. So it's actually really, really awesome. So the other thing, so I went through, so you're Knitting with Confidence. That's just a little touch base about it. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but I love the fact that you, in that course, you learned, because I'm already a knitter, and so I knew the majority of what you had taught already, but I learned that through 5 years of trial and error and all that stuff. You can easily take this course and just be at my level in 2 seconds without going through the 5 years of agony and trying to figure it out and getting headaches from it, you know, because that is, it does give you confidence by the end of it to know, because you teach people how to not be afraid of it.
I think that's the biggest thing, because I think I
Mm-hmm.
taught people to knit for a long time in person as well before I even created my course. I wanted, the reason I created the first course, the free one, was because the amount of people that say to me, oh, I could never knit, I haven't got the patience to knit, I haven't got the skill to knit, I'm not creative enough, or I'm not this enough or that enough. And everybody, I'd love to, but had a reason why they couldn't. And I wanted to make it more accessible for people. And I knew that for me, the easiest way to learn was a video where I could watch it and go back and watch it and go back until it was in my mind. And I tried teaching people in person for quite a long time. I found that was so much harder, because you couldn't just keep going back and doing the same thing to show them. It was much harder to do it in person. But what I did notice from observing people attempting to knit in person, and from my own experience of when I first started learning to knit, because I'm entirely self-taught, is that some of the biggest things that were holding me back and holding the people I was teaching back was fear. It was the number one thing. And I find it quite funny that something that's meant to be relaxing, that is a hobby, that, you know, in real life, it's, you know, it has a lot of real world applications, but in reality, it's not the most important thing in the world. People are terrified. doing it wrong. And I think it's that fear of sort of letting go, and the fear of putting energy into something and then it failing. So people are very scared, and they knit really tightly, and then they get hand cramp because they're knitting so tightly, and they drop stitches, and then as soon as that stitch falls off the needle, they're just absolutely filled with terror because it's, oh my goodness, what do I do? Oh, it's all ruined, I can't do any more. And I wanted to take that away. That was because I just figured if everybody could get over that fear and know they could handle it, they could do anything.
Yes.
That was how I saw it. Yeah.
When I finally like figured out that knitting is nothing to be afraid of, and that everything is like, you can easily just fix it as easily as crochet, and you can, you know what I mean? Like and then tinking, I never realized I was tinking. I always thought the whole thing was frogging. So frogging is actually ripping it out, and tinking is one stitch at a time. So I always thought as I'm tinking backwards, I'm frogging, but I didn't realize there was two different.
Yeah, the frogging comes from the noise it makes. So rip it.
Yeah. And so, so tinking is actually just using the needle to guide you back each step. Okay, Andy. Yeah. He's gonna be a pain. He's gonna be a pain. I think it's because, like I said, when I get excited, he gets like, "Oh, what's going on?"
It's lovely.
So the other thing I definitely want to touch on is our. So at the end of your course, you offer a pattern, and I noticed you use the word template pattern, and I was like, I am totally going to steal her phrasing right there, because that's exactly what I've been wanting to do, because I have two patterns that are down, and in 2019 I'm going to be creating more patterns, because everybody keeps asking me, do you have patterns for your scarves? And I always say no, because I just do one of a kind stuff, but I like doing simple stitches that that you can do your own. And I wanted to create patterns where everything that they did, they follow my template pattern, and they get to create their own stuff by using their own yarns, their own needle sizes, their own, and just to explore creativity, so that people aren't afraid to just try new things and try different things. And so I love that concept of template pattern.
Yeah, I don't like feeling like I'm stunting people's creativity. I don't want to give people a recipe to create a cookie cutter version of exactly what I've made, because I know that I look at patterns and I think that's beautiful, and you sent me something the other day on Instagram, that skirt that was beautiful, but you were like, I love this hem. That was the part of it that you love. And it's things like that I do, where I'll go, well, I love this skirt, but I don't like that hem, so I want to change that. And I know that it's not just me that's like that. I know most knitters, most creatives are like that. We want to, it's the same part of our brain that when we go into a shop goes, oh, that jumper's beautiful, but I'm not spending money on it because I could make it myself. I'm not going to, but I could, so I'm not buying it. And it's that same part of your brain that's saying, I can do more than what I'm being told is set in stone. So by creating patterns that people can just sort of take an outline and put their own spin on it, they're doing what's right for them. And as well, it sort of takes, with sort of copyright things and things like that, it takes that away, because if they make a jumper that they want to sell, well, I've provided them an outline for that jumper, but the rest of it's all them. So I'm not going to say, well, you took a jumper and I'm going to sue you for that, because people have been knitting jumpers for a very long time, and who was the original person that made a jumper, because I think we all owe them something.
Yes.
It just sort of gives people the freedom to sort of do their own thing, and they don't have to. And if they like it exactly as I've made it, I'm telling them how they can do that. I'm just also giving them the tools to say, actually, I prefer this in a chunky yarn, and now I know how to do it in a chunky yarn as opposed to a fine yarn, or vice versa. And I like that element of freedom that it gives people.
Oh my gosh, Toni, I wish I knew you at the beginning of this year, because then I would have had the confidence to pursue this avenue, because
Yeah.
it's really the reason why I've been holding myself back from pattern writing all these years, is because everybody has just done patterns the same way over and over again, where I tell you a yarn, this is how you do it, and this is the outcome every single time. And this is why I never really follow patterns. So my brain doesn't work that way. And so
Yeah.
I don't really follow through on patterns, because I'm halfway through. I basically take patterns and I learn
Yeah.
techniques from them. And that's
Same.
how I buy patterns for that same reason. I buy patterns so that I can
Learn.
learn a technique, and then I drop the pattern, I do other things, I do my own things or my own spin of that pattern. So nothing I ever do is exactly the same. So
Yeah.
that's why everything I do is one of a kind.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and that's how I want everybody to be, is so. But I know, like, so many makers that are in this cookie cutter, mentality, where they have to be told one way or another, and then they're afraid to experiment. And I just
Yeah.
want my patterns to do the opposite, where it liberates them from that
Yeah.
fear,
And I
and, like,
also
no, you
don't
can
want to
do these
be,
different things.
yeah, I also don't want to be that designer that's getting annoyed that somebody's made changes to my patterns. So if I'm sort of taking that off of myself, that preciousness about something I've created, and I'm saying, do what you want with it, I then can't go, oh, well, that was my idea, and they've taken it and changed it. Because, yeah, they have, because I've told them that they can. And it kind of stops me going a little bit mad myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
feel like if I was saying, this is my pattern and this is my idea, and then I went onto Instagram and saw that somebody had taken that idea and changed it, and I'd not given that permission originally, I feel like I might start getting a bit bitter and annoyed.
Yeah.
And that's not who I want to be. I'm a much freer
Yeah.
person than that. And I like just letting people, there's a cowl pattern that comes with the course that you can also buy separately, and that's one of those. And I have a jumper pattern that's like a wraparound croc jumper, and that's another where you can, I love lace knitting, so I've made a lace crop jumper. You can do it in cables or chunky or fine, or, and that was part of my university project. I had lots of different knitters make that however they wanted, and that was part of my university project. And I
Oh my
loved
God.
all the different things that people did with it. It was amazing. Some people did it in stocking stitch, but with a variegated yarn, so it created a texture. Or some people did it in a fuzzy yarn, or the options are endless, and that's what I like about it. And I just like giving people that freedom. That for me is the exciting part, seeing what other people can achieve when they let loose a little bit and stop feeling really tied in by those restraints.
Yes. Oh my God. Those are so many good gems there. That's exactly. And I'm so glad. I'm gonna definitely go check out this jumper, because I make scarves, so I think I can pursue my course in this way, because nothing that I will be making is going to be tied down to a certain size or wearable stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that they can experiment, like, full out, with the different yarns and the different needle sizes and the sizing and everything, to each their own. But for clothing, I know that there's a little limitation for that, but a jumper is a great way to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to definitely try that out and check that out, because I do love that. I love the idea of watching different things, from the way different people make different things. You know what I mean? Like, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And you touch on the world of copywriting is such a my reaction to copywriting issues when it comes to knit and crochet is is a very blurred line for me, because I'm always like, this is a million-year-old craft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
It's
find
literally
it
a
very hard.
million-year-old craft.
Yeah.
Nothing that anybody has ever done is new. Nobody
Yeah.
owns anything, because
No.
everybody got the idea of somebody from something. You know what I mean? And yeah, it is copywriting. If you take their pattern and you copy and paste and made it your pattern, that is copywriting. That's an ethical issue that's between the person and who is violating that ethical issue, because that's if you run your life that way, then you know what I mean, you're already down a downward spiral that I don't have a say in, you know what I mean? Like if you are exactly copying somebody, then, or taking somebody's picture and calling it your own, like, that is copyright. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, you're doing something wrong when people are violating that instance, but as far as creativity and with the knit and the stitches and what you've seen and how people make things, and they're like, oh, you already done that, and then like, or that you're copying me because now I'm like, no, this has been done a billion times over before the internet even showed that it was done. It's been in books, it's been in family albums, it's been everywhere. This is a million-year-old craft. There's nothing new that's created.
No.
But
I think that's what I love about it, is that, surely that should be liberating, but I don't think many people find it liberating. I think people find it very tying and frightening. Whereas, I mean, I find it hard because I just think, well, if that's the case, then looking through a stitch dictionary, somebody could say that breaching copyright because you've copied a stitch. But then what would separate a more sort of intricate lace stitch from a rib stitch? Who first came up with the rib stitch? It's very blurred lines, and it is a hard thing. And I think sort of just take it with a pinch of salt. And I know that sounds really bad. And what I'm not saying is, oh, well, go on someone's website and download all of the graphics that they've created themselves and download their pattern, and then just white out their copyright logo at the bottom and put your name on it. That is very, very different. But if you've followed a pattern, or you've seen a pattern and you really like that stitch, for example, or the yarn that they used, or just don't beat yourself. Because I spent a lot of time going, oh, but somebody else, I found this on somebody else's pattern, so am I copying them? Well, no, because it's literally a stitch pattern, which probably hundreds and thousands of people have used before. And there isn't, with things like this, there isn't that sort of defined line of who created it, because no one even knows how long knitting has been around. No one knows when it was first created. I'm pretty sure I've seen something that found things in the Egyptian times that had been knitted. So it's, it is hard to find that line of who first came up with it. So
so don't even bother with that issue, because
I
know I didn't create, nothing I make one of a kind pieces, and nothing I know I didn't create, but what I created was my own take and my own spin on what I've learned. You know what I mean? And that I know to be true. And that, and copying something, taking somebody's work and then doing, like, that's an ethical issue, and which I know I myself do not violate. So therefore I have no worries about, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what you do. So when you see somebody using something and you like it and you're inspired by it, do it, and then do it your own way, spin it your own way, and be confident enough to know that you're putting your own world into it.
I think it's also, I know it sounds like, but there was copying is the highest form of flattery, and I think you can choose sort of how you see it. If somebody copies something that I do, I'm not going to be offended that they've done that. I'm choosing to be flattered as opposed to offended, and I think that's. Oh my gosh, there's a difference between copying and stealing.
You're literally my blonde twin, because I swear that is exactly what, every time somebody goes on to my Dare to Read original Facebook and they're like upset that they've been copied, and I'm always like, I'm yet to be copied. What the heck, man? What do I have to do to be copied in this world? Because I'm like, I would be flattered if somebody decided to take my model and go, oh, and then because I would know that's mine, and I'm like, oh, you copied me because you liked it that much?
I think
flattered. I'm waiting. I'm honestly waiting to be flattered, and I've yet to be flattered by this copying issue.
I think that's why I do create these sort of template patterns more than other things, because then there is no copying, is there? I've said to you, this is exactly how you create this framework, and you do whatever you want with it. And I think it's that sort of teach a man to fish, and give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, teach him to fish and he'll eat for life. I could teach you how to make one specific jumper, and you can knit that one specific jumper over and over again. if I teach you how to make a framework of this one jumper, you could make 100 different variations of this one jumper. So then you'll be warm for a really long time. So it's it's that kind of attitude, and I think that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I think I'm on this earth to teach people how to fish.
Yeah, I think
you know what I mean.
Too.
I think I've been put on this earth to
For me, it's exciting to see what people can do with the skills once they've got them.
Yeah.
As opposed to teaching them just one way to do one thing. Just give them the skills to figure out this huge thing that they can do, and that's so much more exciting.
So I want to do a little pivot pitch, because you did mention earlier about mental health issues, and I know that you took some break, because I had sought Toni out. This was at the beginning of the year, right? And then we both just kind of dropped off and the face of the internet. And work in general, and because I was dealing with health issues myself, and then I noticed that you just had a baby, and so we knew you were busy with your new baby and everything, and then you came back and you had mentioned why you had taken some time off, and I thought it was really brave and encouraging, and I wanted to touch a little bit about your break from this, and now that you're back, and as am I back, and that's why we have this interview here. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about your break, and because this is another thing, because we are this is self entrepreneurship, like that we have to motivate ourselves. We don't have bosses that, I have a day job that I go to work and I report and I'm told what to do and I do that, you know what I mean? But as opposed to reporting to Vone Knits, it's a lot tougher to motivate myself, because when I'm mentally drained or physically drained, it's easy to check me off and go, another day, you know what I mean? Like talk a little bit about about you, like how we have to motivate ourselves to pursue our dreams.
I think it's very hard, and I think you have to be kind to yourself, and I think you have to have support of people who are doing something similar. I have a group of amazing women that I talk to pretty much every single day. We are all at different stages in our businesses. Our businesses are all completely different, and that is a huge help for me. So when I'm beating myself up and going, I haven't posted a blog in 3 months, I have no idea what to do, everybody's going to hate me or not follow me anymore, and everyone's going to unsubscribe, or when I finally email people again, they're all going to be really annoyed that, because you build these things up in your head, you think people are paying more attention to you than they actually are, and that sounds harsh, but actually, again, that's quite liberating, realizing actually people are more into their own lives than yours. They're not that concerned in a negative way. So for them to say, calm down, your followers will still be there afterwards. If you're honest with them, they'll stick around. And if they don't stick around, then they're not your people, and that's fine too. That was huge for me. And I also do have some just online friends who are in similar sort of fields. So Sarah McFall is, I just love her to bits. She took my course. I met her and Jennifer both around the same time. They did the very, very first iteration of Newbie to Know It All. They were, I think, in the first 10 people to sign up for that course when I first decided I was going to do a course, and that was about 3 years ago now. So having them just on Instagram, that they'll comment on something and it'll just give me that bit of a lift and make me realize that while I'm not feeling great about myself and I'm possibly not giving myself enough credit, there are people out there who are actually still cheering me on, even if I'm not quite as on the scene as I'd like to be at that moment. So this break that I took most recently, it was quite a long one. I'd say it's probably the longest break I've taken, but it's definitely not the only break I've taken. I've taken quite a few over the last few years because my mental health does fluctuate quite badly, usually in winter. So this year I seem to have I've gone the other way. I've actually done I took all of summer off, and now I'm feeling quite excited and motivated over winter, which is a nice change for me. But I have taken quite a few breaks over the last few years, and I think it's about not beating yourself up for it, just being kind to yourself and realizing that you are only human, and that for the most part, the reason we are choosing to be entrepreneurs, I know for a lot of people, it's so that hopefully one day we don't have to answer to a boss, and we don't have to say, I am not feeling up to this right now. And there's sort of different sides to it, because on the one side, I would go into work even if I was having a bad mental health day, because I would feel like I was obligated to, because they pay me to. And as you said, it's easier to push your own sort of business needs to the side, because it's only your own business. So on the one level, there's the fact that you're essentially saying making money for another person is more important than doing it for yourself, that your manager's needs are above your needs, which they shouldn't be. However, the reason we do this, and the reason I know I did this and decided I wanted my own business, was because my mental health was in such a way that, you know, some people, when they have bad mental health days, they go into work and they feel better. I'm the other way. When I have to go into work for another person, put up with the stress of dealing with people, when really I need to sit at home on my own and take some time for myself, I get worse. And the more I have to do that, it compounds until I get to a point where I end up breaking. And after a lot of times of this happening, I decided I'm tired of breaking. I'm tired of getting to that point where I can't cope anymore. I'm tired of crying when I have to go to work in the morning, because I don't want to go, because I'm not well enough emotionally, but I have to answer to another person. So I want to be in a position where I can wake up one day and go, I'm really not in the right place for this right now, but that's okay. And I can take that time, and I don't have to ring anybody up and lie and pretend I've got a stomach bug, because it's not acceptable to tell them that my mental health isn't good right now. And I think that's why I want my own business. And that's why I knit as well. My knitting, I did that all from the beginning because of my mental health and my physical health as well. So it all ties in that way.
Yes. Oh my God, so many good gems. And isn't that the truth? Is that is what we do? We how easily we can dismiss our own, you know what I mean? Our own entrepreneurship, because we put ourselves on the back burner, and we have to flip that somehow. And you know, and I think I did that like towards the beginning of the year, where I was just like, okay, I have to take some time. And I missed a lot of work, and I did miss a lot. And it's funny, because I thought that it was, I mean, it was physically, from the physical pain, because I have physical illnesses that I was dealing with, but I didn't realize there was a mental underlining issue of it, because until my boss finally sat me down and said, are you depressed? And that's when I was just like, I didn't realize that my physical ailment had turned me into a mental ailment as well. And that was more or less what was keeping me down and not moving than the actual physical thing, even though that was really painful. And so to get through that, like once I started addressing the mental stuff to lightly, and then being kind to myself, and being, you know what I mean, and honest with myself, and honest with the people that are outside of my world, which I was terrified of, you know what I mean? Like, we're always terrified, like, oh, they're not gonna, you know what I mean, follow you, or they're just gonna be so turned off by you, or by your honesty, or by what you're dealing with. Because sometimes I think that there's a backlash effect when we follow people on the internet, because we're in a different age, you know what I mean? This internet world, and having access to all that is out there, and it can bombard us within, but at the same time, we go out there really quickly just to escape. You know what I mean? So we go to social media because we want to see the other world, and we want to see the other side of it and how perfect their lives are, and then we dream that that can be our lives. But we forget that
It's not even their life, really.
it's not even their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People looked at my world and they thought they see these beautiful, clean, white pictures and they think, oh, she's in this happy, euphoric world. And I'm like, no, that's not, my world was the opposite of what you
Yeah.
see on my feeds. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what I show on my feeds.
I think that's why I don't show up when because I feel like I'm lying. I feel like a fraud, you know, putting out beautiful pictures when I don't feel like anything is beautiful right now. I don't want to sort of feel like I'm being fraudulent almost, and I try to be really, really honest in my business. In 2019 I want to focus more on the benefit of knitting for mental and physical health, because I think it is an amazing tool. I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, get a hobby and go exercise a bit and you'll find. I'm not saying in any way that knitting can cure it. What I'm saying is I think it can help it massively. But I think when you're in the middle of it as well, it can also be really hard to even make yourself sit down and knit. That in itself. So there's a whole lot of hurdles, and I definitely want to start going down that route a little bit more, because, you know, sometimes it just feels impossible, but you have to try and make time for it. And it's, you know, especially having a daughter, I ended up with a bit of postnatal depression, which was I expected with me already having mental health problems, but having my daughter and then the, you know, PND and all of these things, knitting just fell off the back burner. And then I felt kind of fraudulent saying knitting's really, really great for depression, because it didn't help mine. But it didn't help mine because I was so deep into it that I wouldn't even let myself pick it up. And I didn't have much time to pick it up. But I know if I had have done, it would have been great for my mental health. So
I was in the same boat. I never picked up a needle. I hadn't picked up a needle or a hook in that entire time. And that is my knitting and crocheting is my therapy. My crafts are my therapy. I've said it my whole life. It's why I did it. They're like, why would you sit there? And because I picked up crochet when I got married to my husband. I was like, I wanted something to do when I was sitting there watching TV. You know what I mean? And so I just picked up a craft, and then I got obsessed with it and learned all these things. But it was my therapy. I found that knitting and crocheting and making projects, it was a way for me to help rationalize. And as I'm just sitting there droning those same emotions, that was my therapeutic time to process everything that was wrong or not right, or that I couldn't understand in the world. And it gave my brain some peace time of just you know, like controlling something, and it did help me. It was a great therapy for, you know what I mean. I've been with my husband for how many years? Like we're into a decade. We're 13 years, and I'm like, and I've been with him for 20 years. I'm like, I think it's because I have this awesome craft that I can turn to, and that it's been my therapy. You know what I mean?
And I think you know, there's times when, and I think the environment has to be right as well for it to work as a therapy. So for me, if I'm sat watching TV, it probably won't become a therapy thing. But for me, if I was to sit in a quiet room with some sort of a deep focus playlist from Spotify, and then do some knitting that was quite mindless, and I didn't really maybe need to think about the pattern, then it's like having a therapist in my own brain, because I will have this backwards and forwards conversation where, you know, I'll be, so why did I think this, and why did I feel this way, and what did that make me feel? And I will get to the root of things in my own brain. And then once all that's out, my creativity starts coming back in again, because I start feeling like, oh, well, I could do this and I could do that, and then this would work this way. And all of a sudden, all of this inspiration comes, and it makes me feel better. But when you're in the depths of it, it's hard to make yourself do that. And I think that's something that people need to understand as well, that while it can, you know, people say, oh, well, if you just did this, you'd be better. I probably would. But you need to understand how hard that first step is. And that sometimes that doesn't come very easily either. So, you know, I do think it's an amazing therapy, and that's why I do it. And I definitely want to start sort of going down that route a little bit more with my business, you know, sort of going into the blissfully side of Blissfully Crafted as opposed to just the crafted side of it as well.
That's awesome. So that's my next question. So what is 2019 for Blissfully Crafted? So that is the path that you're working towards?
Yeah, I definitely want to start looking at that. I would quite like to start, I found that my audience tends to be made up of, there's some people, sort of like more elderly people who have knitted for a long time, who've just sort of found me, and I don't really think they're my target as such, because I think people like yourself, who sort of maybe struggle more with some mental health and even physical health issues, because knitting has got me through many physical health issues, because I've had more than I care to mention. That's the sort of thing that I want to start honing in on and focusing on. I sort of want to get my sort of products really as amazing as they could possibly be. So my courses, I want them to be, you know, the most helpful they can be, so that people really feel the value in it, because I know how much value there is in it, and I want people to just fall in love with it the way I do. So I want to sort of get that all neatened up, and once that's all neatened up, for me 2019 is finding those people that I really want to be finding, people who struggle with mental health, people who struggle with physical health, mums with postnatal depression and anxiety and those kinds of things.
Right.
I think they all work really well into that sort of same area.
Oh, that's awesome. So then thank you so much for doing this with me. Then this is a great template for you to start off with, that people get to know you, because this is this is a great fishing rod right here, you know what I mean, into your world. And I'm so glad that you let me in, and thank you so much. I took her course. I absolutely love it. If you guys are new knitters, and if you're not a knitter at all, you need to take her free newbie knitting course. Like, you need to take it. Like, it's amazing, and it will get you right on right in the level of any knitter. And then the knitting with confidence will excel you and propel you to the next level. Like, they are great tools, and they're for life, right? Those are lifetime access. Like, I mean, for as long as Teachable is around, and Teachable is $1 billion business, so they will be around a long time.
Quite a long time.
Quite a long time. Yeah. So it's a really great.
I genuinely think that with the free course and Knitting with Confidence, you have propelled yourself to the point of somebody who's been knitting for several years. That's the way I see it. It
absolutely easily.
Yeah. It took me about a decade to get to the point where I am now.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of frustrations involved in that. There was a lot of searching for hundreds of different YouTube videos to find just one that gave me the bit of information that I was looking for. And these two courses together, especially if you've never knit anything in your life before, I feel like you can start at point 0 in the free course, work your way through to the end of Knitting with Confidence, and you literally will have, and you could do that in a couple of months maximum, even a month if you were putting enough time in, if that's what you really wanted to do, and excel yourself to the same level as someone who's been doing it for almost 10 years.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate that you're absolutely right. Your two courses will take a newbie, like a never before knitter, and turn them into me in one night. You know, like literally, like, those two courses will easily give you that same confidence. And to iterate that, the proof is in the pudding with Sarah. And I don't know if Sarah was a new knitter when she took your course, but I definitely know that Jennifer was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Jennifer definitely was, and I think
definitely Sarah was. And Sarah was maybe just like a little bit as well. Okay, because now Sarah is doing these gorgeous knitted shawls, and she's designing shawl patterns, lace patterns. Like, it's like amazing, the creativity, and the beauty of all the of Jennifer's amigurumi. Like, you sparked that, like, you created that. And you know, and I just want to say, like, the things that how we get in our own heads of what people don't need and what people were afraid that they don't want. Like, you created those two, and I've watched, you know what I mean, like, watch it happen. So it's totally possible. Definitely check her course out and sign up. And if you are even just a new knitter, and go get that knitting with confidence, because that'll take you to another level where and you entitled that very perfectly, because that you do get confidence when you get by the time you're finished with that course, you will feel like you have been knitting forever and that you know it inside and out.
And with that course as well, there is the Facebook group that you get access to that has just one-on-one with me, so you could just message me at any point on there, and I will always be ready to help. And in the new year, I'm also looking to start doing some knit and natter sessions in that group as well, because I really want to start bringing people from a wider area, i.e. the world, together to do knit and natter. Because for me, sitting with you and Sarah McFall and Jennifer, that would be, you know, the creativity there, that sort of thing. That's what I want, that community without having to be in the same room, because Sarah's in the UK, but in a totally different part of the UK to me, so I never get to see her. But it would just, that sort of creativity, that's what I want to bring together.
That would be amazing. You know, that's a great idea. We need to put that in the book. So just the four of us in Zoom knitting together, like, we need to get that in the books. You know what I mean? Like, the four of us sitting together, knitting from all sides of the world, and you know what I mean? And gabbing, and maybe hit record, or maybe not hit record, because
either way it sounds amazing.
Exactly.
We need to
because we can actually really talk about things that maybe not everybody would want to hear.
Yeah, and
that's awesome. No, we definitely have to put that in the books for 2019.
Yeah, my poor boyfriend has no idea what I'm talking about when I'm talking. It'd be really nice to have some like-minded people to sit and knit with.
It really is. It really is. That's great. Oh, I look forward to some knit-alongs in your Facebook group. So that Facebook group is solely for the people that sign up for the free knitting course. That's awesome.
That's the paid course. The closed group has the free course group has closed now. It was just becoming a monster that I couldn't actually handle myself anymore. So it's only a group for the paid course.
That's awesome.
But it's just great. Constant. I'm always there if anybody needs that help.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great feature. That's a great feature. I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor. I could probably go on and on and on, but then it would take forever. So maybe we might have to do a part 2 of this, you know, because we're touching on so many great things, and there's so many other great things that I'd love to chat with you about and share with the world about, because this has been a great hour. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. And until next video, guys, I'll see you guys. Thanks. Bye. Oh, God bless. Bye. Right.